Hi, my name is Tana Martin, and I will be doing a quick video on why schizophrenic people are to be respected as creative and capable individuals in our society. Schizophrenia is a disorder that disrupts the five senses of a human being. It also goes into the core of their thinking. Delusions are thoughts that are embedded in them that they honestly believe despite hearing truth otherwise. And then there's the hallucinations, which the most common is hearing voices, seeing things that aren't there, hearing things that aren't there, and even feeling things that aren't there. How are they able to continue on? We'll find out. But could you imagine seeing something and feeling something that wasn't there? It's hard to imagine. Approximately 1% of population worldwide is said to have schizophrenia. And out of that 1%, approximately 3 million are in the United States. Although there's no cure for schizophrenia, with technology, we're coming very close. And no, we don't know the origin. But with many studies that are happening now, and the experiences being shared by those with schizophrenia, it is becoming more attainable to live and thrive with schizophrenia. One of the main factors that's been figured out about schizophrenics is that there is an overfiring of the neurotransmitter called dopamine that is in each person that has schizophrenia. So with the overaction in the brain, it's causing delusions and hallucinations. Some facts about schizophrenia is that it may be caused, it's said to be caused by stress. It could have been a chemical issue while being formed in the womb. And it's also said to be caused by childhood trauma, like when it finally hits someone, which is usually in this time of their life where they're just starting their life out. It could happen as early as late adolescence. The most commonly is late adolescence to about early 30s. So, and male or female can have it. There's no variation that shows more men get it more or women get it more. And so the main theory that's still there, or also has been proven by medication, is that when dopamine levels are decreased by different antipsychotic medications, then schizophrenics lose hallucinations. So other forms of remedying the symptoms of schizophrenia is psychotherapy, which can be done on a one-to-one. Cognitive behavioral therapy is the most popular because it helps you to be able to think about what you're thinking about, change your thinking patterns, and then therefore, changing your actions and behavior, in reaction to the world. So this is could be internal stimulus, or it can sound like it's coming from the outside or external. And so many people that are thriving now have learned different techniques to get through and to also make these voices and sensations, dim. And they've been able to be successful, which doctors were not supporting. There is a woman that stated in the New York Times, she wrote about herself, her name is Elaine Sachs, and she was told by her doctor to expect a mediocre life, basically. And so that's what a lot of patients have been told. So there is a stigma there that needs to be broken. And with this being said, it affects all cultures, doesn't matter your race. It just goes across the board, affecting all of mankind. So before I go into any further depth about success stories, I think something interesting that stood out to me on ScienceNet links is about schizophrenia and creativity. And it states that the brains of healthy, creative people share some similarities with those of schizophrenic patients. So it does show a correlation with creativity in your thinking with schizophrenia. The issue is that the D2 receptors dopamine receptors that are found in creative brains. When they're found in schizophrenic brains, they just have a weaker filter, which causes bizarre delusional thinking that schizophrenics have. You could look this up on ScienceNet links. It's by Bob Hirschon. It's a science update. So now that we know that schizophrenics have creative ability, it's been proven by science. Have you ever seen the movie A Beautiful Mind? It's about a man named John Nash who was a mathematician, and he made a huge impact on our economy. So John Nash is somebody that people that have schizophrenia look up to, as he has some really great ideas on how to overcome schizophrenia. He also got the Nobel Peace Prize in 1994, and I would encourage you to see that movie A Beautiful Mind, to see what it's like to go through delusions and hallucinations for a schizophrenic person. One thing that he said contributed to his remission or ability not to relapse back into acting and behaving on hallucinations and delusions is that he decided to use his willpower, and he said he did not want to use his intellect for a waste. So I would encourage you to look him up. Some things that the lady I spoke of earlier, whose name is Aline Sachs, you can look her up on the New York Times. It's called Successful and Schizophrenic. She and a bunch of colleagues, which she works in as a professor, and she also works in the psychiatric department at a medical school. So she's making a huge impact. She did a survey asking those with schizophrenia, what are techniques that you use that help you to manage and be successful even though you have such symptoms. A lot of people say they keep their life simple, they eat right, they get adequate rest, they stay away from alcohol, which is good things to do for even a healthy brain, if you will, to do to stay, on track and what have you. They have strength to be able to differentiate between what's real and what's fake when they have this chemical malfunction going on in their brain. And some, like John Nash, choose not to use medication, but others, they do use medication and psychotherapy, which works great. One thing that Sachs said was that the support system that she has is really great for her. And that was another trend I saw with people with schizophrenia. It's just that support system really being tight, having people that care for you, love you. You have a regular life with your desires and your goals being pursued, and you're staying busy with life. And that's really important for anybody, to feel that belonging and not get caught up in loneliness. And so there's more to find on schizophrenia, but for the most part, just living a balanced life with that willpower to think about what you're thinking about. And for some, the medication does help make the voices quiet down. There are people who are successful with schizophrenia in all aspects, mathematics, music. We have Tom Harrell, who's known as the Nash of jazz. He's very well respected. There's a Broadway star by the name of Mara Hopkin, who was also diagnosed with schizophrenia. And then in everyday life, there's people that are changing people's lives. There was a man named Joshua. You can find him on Joshua's Story, Living with Schizophrenia, on World of Psychology. It's a blog by Natalie Champagne. She interviewed Joshua and found out, some things about him. He was 17 years old when he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and he was in denial. His family was in denial, but eventually they learned to cope with it, and he now is working in the justice system to help those who have mental issues or disorders that are in the jail system, to be able to navigate the justice system and get what's right for them, which is really awesome. He also holds groups for counseling where he's able to help those that have schizophrenia learn how to manage their symptoms and live everyday lives. So it's really cool, actually, when you get further into the success of schizophrenic people, to see what an imprint they've left in society and still are.